written and directed by George Lucas. An all-time epic masterpiece. Starting with the opening title call, The Phantom Menace, written and directed by George Lucas. Producer Rick McCollum. Executive producer George Lucas. An all-time epic masterpiece. On the subject of how you would rate the quality of this movie, The Phantom Menace, written and directed by George Lucas, or any other movie written and directed by any other person, any other director, not George Lucas. And then you look at your standard, your metric, whatever rubric, whatever it is you want to use, lighting, audio, directing, writing, coherence, story, compelling, characters, costumes, props, location, all of this, whatever it is you figure in, agenda or whatever it is of the director, and how this point was carried across or brought to the screen in this as the finished product. And you will look at this movie, The Phantom Menace, and you will say, this movie is an all-time epic masterpiece. The Phantom Menace in every category. Fantastic masterpiece. Meticulously designed and carried out, shot by shot, frame by frame, millisecond by millisecond, if you will, down to the tiniest pixel, if you will, and groundbreaking special effects, not to mention music. John Williams, top of his game, with The Phantom Menace, and then Attack of the Clones, and then Revenge of the Sith. The Prequels is an all-time epic masterpiece. Not only is the trilogy set, the movie, story, set in 3 parts, as one story, part of the story being told in 3 chapters, then you see that as it is Star Wars, it's an all-time masterpiece. The Prequels is the best Star Wars. Absolutely. An all-time epic masterpiece, The Prequels. Groundbreaking special effects, audio, CGI combined with real characters, practical effects, miniatures, props, puppets, even a guy walking around in a suit. Ahmed Best, Jar Jar Binks, an all-time epic masterpiece. Ahmed Best as Jar Jar Binks, and Jar Jar Binks is the key. So let's talk a little bit about what you think is a good movie and what I think is a good movie. And then after we're done having our little arguments and each one of us had our final say, and we dissed the other on the internet or whatever, or had a good time and laughed about it, not a big deal, then we'll take a look and see what the creator says. What does George Lucas say about it? Because really in the long run, it really doesn't matter what you think about any work that anybody does, unless it impacts you in a life or death way. Really, what it is for you is, it is yours, the responsibility, if you wish it to be, and the right, of course, to have an opinion, which you will have one naturally and organically, and then also to critique and give your assessment, recommendations, and as well as a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And then, of course, you can go and make your own movie, or your own movies, as many fans have of George Lucas, fans of George Lucas and fans of Star Wars. They've gone on and made their own movies. And George Lucas encourages this, applauds it, and celebrates it. And it is truly the work of a genius, Star Wars, as we have it in the original 6 episodes, including the holiday special, the original, and Clone Wars, the original miniseries, the hand-drawn miniseries. Now we're looking at The Phantom Menace, written and directed by George Lucas, an all-time epic masterpiece. And also introducing us to the character, Anakin Skywalker. All-time epic masterpiece of a performance. Jake Lloyd as Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace. And yes, while we're on the subject of both Anakin Skywalker and Jake Lloyd, Jake Lloyd deserves an Oscar for Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace. Written and directed by George Lucas, an all-time epic masterpiece. And there you go, there you have it. And Jar Jar is the key. And so on to this idea of what you think is a good movie and what I think is a good movie, and objectively and subjectively and all of that, and all your words, and film school and all of that. And in the long run, it really doesn't matter what you think or what I think. What matters is, what does the creator think? What is the one that created all this thing? What is the master of the universe say? The one that actually has the final say of what is and what is not in this universe. Or this creation, this reality that we have in Star Wars, that we see in Star Wars. And what is that entity say, that creator, the Most High, if you will, in that regard, the creator of this universe, which we inhabit, which we are a part of. If you're a fan of Star Wars, or even a casual reader, because George Lucas has changed the world, literally, twice he changed it. And now, friends, we see that George Lucas has changed the world. Now, the fans of Lucas and those fans of Star Wars have changed the world as well. They go on and they tell their own versions of the stories. And then they have their own agendas, and they have their own special reasons for telling the stories, and whatever. And we see a lot of these movies that come out, you know, like Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and of course The Rise of Skywalker and all this other stuff. And it's great. You know, these are all stories and movies that people have come up with, and they have various reasons, agendas for creating them, and a lot of them really do love the movies. They love the creator, and they appreciate it, and they love the characters and the story. But if you look at the movies that are made after Lucas, it's not the same. It's just not the same. It's something's different. Something's not the same. You know it, and I know it. And this is what we mean when we say there has been an awakening, and we all know that there has been no awakening. We know this. We all know this, and you know it. Anybody that's seen any of those other movies know it. They know it. There has not been any awakening. And these stories are just poor copies and imitations of the original and the true, which is the original trilogy, which is Star Wars. You saw it as I did, the original version in 1977. The age of 10. And then, of course, Empire Strikes Back. And then The Return of the Jedi. And then years and years later, we learned that George Lucas, the creator of the original Star Wars, original trilogy, was going to be producing and bringing to the film episodes 1, 2, and 3, Star Wars. And then when, of course, we saw this in theaters in 1999, and then, of course, we knew this was the real Star Wars, because this was actually George Lucas telling us his version of this world that not only had he created, but that he was now continuing to create, to tell us what this world was all about, and to tell us what our place might be in this world if we so choose to participate as either a storyteller or an audience, just with our eyes and our attention fixed on the story that George is telling us. George Lucas is the key, just as Jar Jar is the key. And in order to get The Phantom Menace, you have to get Jar Jar. Absolutely. Groundbreaking special effects, an all-time epic performance by every single cast member, every single cast member, including Wanda. this as well also for the newer movies that have come out, the Disney versions as they call them, which I already know exactly what they are. They're not real Star Wars. So we might as well just say it. This means to say nothing against the work or the quality put into those movies, because they're well-made movies, and it's a good effort on all of those movies. From all the producers, directors, and every cast member, including the ones that did catering and cleaned the toilets on any of those productions. Wrote the checks, whatever. It's just not real Star Wars, and this is all there is to it. The real Star Wars comes from the creator of Star Wars, comes from George Lucas. And when you dismiss Lucas and you do not have the creator of the universe and that input of the actual story and where the characters should be and what should be happening in the story, it's just not real Star Wars. So if you want real Star Wars, you are going to want to take a look at the prequels, because the prequels is the most purest, it's the most pure Star Wars, I think, or from the heart of George Lucas, through the methods and the techniques and the processes and systems, socially and politically, as well as economically, that are required to get through to make a movie like this, and to bring a movie like this to audiences throughout the world, on the land and in the sea and under the sea, and into the lowest valley and to the highest mountaintop, and even into outer space, and even on your own phone, on your own wristwatch, thanks to the miracle of Jar Jar Binks. And once again, Jar Jar is the key, and Lucas is the key. And anybody that is going to look at this movie, The Phantom Menace, and come to any other conclusion than that it is an all-time epic masterpiece on every level, not to mention groundbreaking innovation, inventing, ground-breaking, earth-shattering, reality-shifting, and paradigm-destroying special effects, as well as storytelling. Some of the all-time epic characters ever created. Qui-Gon Jinn, we get to see where Obi-Wan Kenobi came from, who taught Obi-Wan. We learn about the Jedi, we learn about the culture of the Jedi, Count Dooku and Attack of the Clones, and then how others can be trained to use the lightsaber in the ways of the Force, so to speak, as we see with General Grievous. And then, of course, we know that the Jedi mind trick doesn't work on everyone, only on the weak-minded, but also not on Targaryens. Only money works on Targaryens. And Watto, an all-time classic character. Friends, we're moving now into this greatness of movie making. We don't need to know if it's going to get ever as great as it was with these movies, the prequels. We don't know. We don't know what's on the horizon. But I can tell you this. If you want to see the best Star Wars, you're going to want to watch the prequels. Pay close attention. Whether you even have this audio on or not. It's just, they're perfectly painted. Masterpiece, each and every one of them. Episode 1, Episode 2, and Episode 3. But starting with The Phantom Menace, whereas I will point out just one thing in The Phantom Menace, and then we'll leave you with this thought. The opening line, the first word uttered in this movie, The Phantom Menace, is in Episode 1 of The Phantom Menace, as the title call begins. And the very first word is turmoil. And then we see all the problems in the galaxy because of this turmoil, where that leads the Jedi, and how they encounter Jar Jar Binks to keep all of this, and how they meet Anakin Skywalker, Padme Amidala, C-3PO, R2-D2, Senator Palpatine, and then we meet all these characters, and this all comes from this turmoil, and this is the first word of this chapter of this story. Star Wars, as George Lucas is telling us, is how it should be told, according to the creator. Who cares what you think? It's not your movie. If you don't like it, go make your own. This movie is exactly what George Lucas wanted it to be. The Phantom Menace. An all-time epic masterpiece. So George makes his own movie, and this is the purest Star Wars there is. The best Star Wars there is, the prequels. And if you don't like it, make your own movies. Then make your own prequels. Now everybody's making prequels. George Lucas sets the standard again. Destroys the paradigm in every category, just about. So, as we said, the first word uttered was received, presented in this story, this chapter. Turmoil. And then from that arrives these characters to the conflict in the middle of this become no longer than iconic characters as we come to know them. Star Wars characters. And then the final word uttered is received. One of the greatest characters created in the history of cinema, let alone in Star Wars. Boss Nass holds up this some kind of an orb that seems to have electricity emitted, and then the final word is uttered by this character, Boss Nass, is the king of the Gungans, or the leader of the Gungans, whatever I would say it. And the final word that's uttered in the Phantom Menace, peace. An all-time epic masterpiece. And then, of course, as we said, the first line, turmoil, and then the final line, peace. And that's what we see here. We see turmoil and peace. It's the beginning of the story of Anakin Skywalker. And of course, friends, you're not going to want to miss it. The Prequels is the best Star Wars there is. And I am your host, Mr. The Prequels. May the Force be with us. And we'll see you next time.
Get Bradley Cooper on the phone. Jake Lloyd needs a star. Jake Lloyd deserves an Oscar for Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace. Get Bradley Cooper on the phone.